John Akers, thanks for joining us on the GGB podcast. It's great to have you here. We're going to talk about player tracking, something you know a lot about, having invented it. So we're looking forward to this conversation. On the phone with us today is Frank Legato, our editor. He'll be writing the story for our March edition, and we're looking forward to this discussion today.
How do you think it's developed? Compare your original vision for player tracking today with how it has developed to today.
Well, it really didn't change much for a number of years, and that was one of my big frustrations. I had this company called EDT. I ended up selling it to IGT, and then I started Micon, which became Progressive Gaming, and then sold that off, and it went public. And when I was looking at player tracking, this would be 1997 now, 15 years after we invented the idea, looking at it going, boy, not much has changed. So we started the idea of bonusing with the goal of getting rid of the lines at the Players Club. Could we pay what became free play, or what we called extra credit then, points and things like, or redemptions at the machine instead of requiring people to line up? So I think that was the next major revolution. That's what we did at Akers Gaming. That's what IGT is selling now, and Bally and Konami and everybody else have adapted those same ideas. But the problem that we face today is that we're still running our player tracking as if there are a large number of people just waiting to come into the casino and play.
Right.
And that's not true anymore. And so we have to turn that player tracking information into change that we can make on the casino floor to create a more compelling player experience. And that's what we're striving to do now, is to find ways to use that same data. We have the gaming industry collects so much data, such a reliable set of data in comparison to almost any other industry, but yet we fail to use that data in a profitable way. A lot of times it's just discarded or ignored or kept secret for concerns about security that are maybe overblown.
Right, no question.
And so what we want to do now is start taking that player tracking data and causing human interaction. If we stand back and we look at physical casinos, which is what we're talking about here, right? Not online gaming.
Right.
The only thing a physical casino has that's unique is personal interaction. Mm-hmm. If someone just wants to gamble, they can sit at home in their bedroom in their underwear and have a lower hold percentage and enjoy the chance to lose their money at slot machines. Right? Now, whether it's legal or illegal, we'll leave that out, but we know that even though it's illegal in the U.S., a lot of people are playing online illegal gambling.
Sure.
If we talk about casinos and how they're going to overcome that, well, it's got to be the human interaction. Our job in the human casino is to send people home feeling better than when they arrived. Mm-hmm. And that's through respect and recognition and celebration and consolation. And it turns out that we've got a lot of that data now. We can certainly understand when a player that matters to us first arrives because we see their card inserted. Well, let's use that as a cue to send a host over to say, "Hi, Roger, glad you're here."
Right.
Or, "Hi, Frank, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in 2 weeks." And then we can go to the database and present this information to that host on a mobile device, mm-hmm. so they don't have to have a perfect memory, right. but they can appear to have that perfect memory. And to go a step further, we could go over and say, "Hi, Roger, I'm glad you're here, and I've got your Jack and Coke right here. Here you go, and I hope you have a good time." Right. So we can do a lot of anticipatory things to make Roger feel more valued, more special, to have a better experience, and that's our real opportunity.
Isn't that something that the major manufacturers of slots and slot systems have been striving for as they develop their systems, or are they not doing that?
I've not seen it done. Certainly, we're working hard, and there's a lot of other companies that are. But the problem that we've got is that we had tremendous innovation in the gaming industry in the 70s and 80s up through, let's call it 1995. In fact, 1995, I believe, is the date that we'll put the mark on when innovation stopped. Mm-hmm. And that's not for nefarious reasons. It's because about 1995 is when the gambling explosion really started. Right. When lots and lots of casinos started opening up, and they said, "I don't need to be better than the casino I have. I just want another one in New Jersey. I want another one in California. I want another one in Mississippi, wherever it was. And so the goal was to copy what they had instead of rewriting regulations or thinking about it, just open a copy. And so for about 10 years, from 95 to 2005 or 2006, we had this tremendous business of expansion where we didn't have to innovate. We simply made more of what we had.
Right.
And then somewhere in the 05, 06, 07 range, we started to see that the growth wasn't quite as explosive as it had been. And then when the recession came in 2008, it really showed us the problem. Mm-hmm. And now we look back and we can see that we did have a set of aging players and that we were not creating new players. We were simply serving pent-up demand. And so for that period from 95 to about 2007, we had no innovation because it was unnecessary. When the recession hit in 08, everybody was scared to death. Nobody was spending anything, so there was no affordability for innovation. Then when we start coming out of that in 2014, 2015, we start seeing all the mergers.
Right.
And the mergers create distraction where maybe some of that energy could have gone to innovation. Instead, it goes to consolidation.
Right.
Where are we going to move our facilities? We're sitting here a half a mile away from what used to be the IGT headquarters. I guess it still is. They just don't own it anymore. They've sold it. And so we've gone through these phases. And we also know that a manufacturer that focuses on building games, which is where the majority of most big companies' revenues come from, don't really think about how to do the other stuff. And my whole career, 40-some years, has been founded upon pioneering the new ideas, developing it to a point where we know it works, and then selling it off to those manufacturers so they can amplify it.
Right.
And I think that's the problem, is that the manufacturers, as we know, the Bally's, not Bally anymore, Scientific Games, right? What's IGT called today?
Still IGT.
Still IGT. Okay. They're great copy machines, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean that they're good at doing things on a scale which is different than innovation.
Right.
And that's where we see our opportunity.
But don't you agree, though, that there have been several companies over this same period that you're talking about that have been working hard at trying to come up with ways to capture non-gaming spend and feed it into the system? It seems I know I've written plenty of articles about companies that have been trying to do that. Don't you agree there has been an effort to do that, to kind of spread the scope of tracking away from the casinos?
Oh, absolutely. Now, that's a different topic than what we've been talking about, though, right? The non-gaming spend tracking.
A big part of the tracking story overall.
Of the future, yeah. But the problem that we face is that all of these things are so segregated, and now we have to decide, how is the customer going to universally identify themselves? We see stations doing a pretty good job of getting people to show their cards at every place they go, but it does take an extra step. Not only do I have to produce my credit card, I have to produce my player's card, and I got to get it logged there. And then how much of a reward do I get? And on those non-gaming spins, we're also going through this transition of, these are loss leaders that we use to get you to gamble, and we can't give you any spiffs on it, to these are profit centers of their own. And we see lots of innovative ideas that haven't really caught fire yet for lack of consistency of interface with the point of sale systems, for lack of certainty about what the casino managers want to do with that non-gaming spend, how much do they want to incentivize it, and also just that inertia of people wanting to do tomorrow what they did today. Or what they did yesterday.
This is just more data that they're bringing into the system, and do they know what to do with this data if they haven't figured out what to do with the gaming data?
And that's the whole thing, because the other piece that's really we look back and we see it's hurting us is that we have traditionally used our data to identify the big spenders and cater to them. And that was great when there were plenty of big spenders that were unidentified. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, we've probably identified most of them by now, and we don't do much to bring someone that maybe isn't completely sold on gambling along to encourage them to become an important player. There's a lot of opportunity there, and that's where the non-gaming spin comes from. But it's a whole different set of analysis to think about how to inspire someone to become a good customer than to simply identify those that are good customers. And that's the challenge that we face, and that's where a lot of really smart smart people that are building a lot of really good technical interfaces are finding trouble is that there's no consensus on how to move forward.
But what you're suggesting is to bring more of the human element into it, so that the technology is great. You can order a drink at your machine. That's great. But when the host comes up to you and says, "Hey John, how you doing? Glad to see you back. Here's your Jack and Coke," and get started.
That's right. And as odd as it seems, again going back into the start of player tracking in the early '80s, we saw ourselves automate more and more and more so that we could process the masses. The slot machines went from coins without credit buttons to coins with credit buttons to bill acceptors to Tito tickets, all in the name of automation to improve what we called the service of the game. But what we lost was part of the experience, the human interaction. And we can go over to a place like Verona, Don Spears and Greg Shea, and look at what they've done, which is they're using automation to bring back interaction. And they've had tremendous success over there. And we see that as the real opportunity, is not to say, here's a robot that's going to serve you or your point total is automatically changed, but to provide a human interface that can show compassion and concern and caring and friendship and love, armed with the information about you personally so they can handle you in a way that's special.